garden tour. I tried to start this live stream I did start this live stream a couple hours ago, and it was pretty warm outside, about close to 30 degrees Celsius, and my phone basically overheated, disconnected, the live stream was over. Not by choice, that was just the fate of the live stream. So I decided to try one more time. The temperature's cooled off a little bit. It is now about 25 or 26 degrees Celsius. Very pleasant outside. It literally went from like spring to summer overnight in like a 15-hour time frame. So that was kind of wild. So let's see what the garden's been up to. It's been about 8 days since my real last backyard garden tour. It feels like not very long. Hello, Pavine. Welcome to my backyard. I tried to do this a few hours ago, but it didn't work out, so we're starting over. I'm not going to rewind what I already showed earlier, but I'll show some other stuff that's happening in the backyard garden. We're going to start out actually with my plum tree, which I do believe is dying a slow death. Hello, Angels Podcast. Welcome to my backyard tour. Thank you for watching. I think you watched my forest bathing video earlier, if I remember right. This is why I believe this tree is dying. It has some significant damage, and we'll look at the tree, but I believe this is where the problem started. And let's check out the tree. I'm not giving up hope on it, but I think it's probably going to get cut down. It's really not looking good. It's been in the ground for 10 years, full of disease all over this tree and this part of the tree. I'm probably going too fast, but it looks like it's dying. There is death all over this tree. It had thousands of flowers. Yeah, the waterfall. That was a nice waterfall. But the tree itself looks like it is dying. But this is why I have a hard time cutting down trees or plants, because there's a glimmer of hope in this tree. Now, I'll see if I can find it again. I saw it earlier. Something I wanted to show. Oh, there it is, right in front of me. Despite this tree dying, it still has plums on it. I don't know how many. Do I grow weed? That's a very common question, believe it or not, and the answer is no. I don't grow weed. Nothing against it. I just don't use it. I don't grow it or anything like that. But yeah, no, so that's not part of my garden. It's an interesting concept for growing, but I just don't have an interest in it myself. There are a few plums on this tree that is probably dying. And that makes it hard to cut down because the tree is trying to survive. And I just spotted more plums that I didn't know were on the tree. I'm kind of excited about that, but kind of not excited because I don't really know what to do with this tree. I'm going to try to show you. Deep in the middle of the tree, there are more plums, despite it looking like it's dying. And oh my gosh, I literally just spotted a whole branch of plums, and I literally thought this tree was dead and dying. Like, look at this. There's a whole bunch of them in here. Oh my gosh, like, nature is so resilient. Now that definitely means I'm not going to cut this tree down until fall, or maybe not at all. It's trying so hard to live. This poor tree. Poor but resilient, I have to say. It is so resilient in the face of disease. Pretty outstanding. Now I'm really curious if there's actually more plums in this tree that I'm unaware of. Oh my gosh, there are. Look at this. Look in the middle of the tree. There's a whole bunch. That is crazy. And oh my god, there's more over here. I literally, before I started this live stream, I thought there were 2 plums in the tree. I probably just found like 30 at least, maybe even more than that. This is crazy. Oh shit. Oops, I don't swear. I shouldn't swear on YouTube. That's horrible. I just broke the branch. And there were plums on it. Oopsie daisies. Oh my god. Almost average. We are about to die. A NATO expansion. I don't know what that means, but it doesn't sound very good. But check this out, guys. There's even more plums in here than I could have ever imagined now that that branch is off. What the heck? I literally thought this tree was dying a slow death. I mean, it still looks like it is, but it's full of plums. That is crazy. Well, that just made my evening. I'm really shocked by this discovery. Yeah, so that is the status of the plum tree. So, what would you like to look at next? I started earlier the stream a few hours ago and it overheated and we were looking at flowers. So in my backyard garden we have lots of ornamental things. We have fruit trees, a vegetable garden, a rocky slope here with lots of flowers and other things, a few food items. Well, you can see me every now and then. I won't be on the picture continually, but every now and then I will pop my picture in the picture. These are raspberry bushes, and these actually self-seeded in my garden. I never planted these. These actually came from my neighbor's garden. They have a raspberry patch on the other side of the fence, and years ago, these berries kept seeding into the grass, and I kept weed whacking them. And then eventually I got so tired of it, I let them grow, and this is what they turned into. There are quite a few raspberries on here, and the bees just love them. This is the early stages of raspberry development for you. Right there. And there's a bee doing some good work in the garden. And some flowers. This is Nigella, Love in a Mist. And in case you're wondering, these flowers are not edible. Do not eat them. I do many edible flower taste tests here, and I won't be taste testing those ones. As far as my research has told me, they are not for consumption. So next, let's check out the foxgloves. They're living their best life here on this rocky slope with lots of love in a mist. The 9-bark is definitely the star of the show in the backyard right now. It's so beautiful. That is the burgundy leafed shrub here. This is called a 9-bark. Super drought tolerant, loves full sun, and tolerates poor soil really well. And the flowers you see here, these are pink candytuft ground covers. They bloom much later than the traditional white ones that bloom in spring. And since we were on the topic of fruit trees, let's check out the apple trees. These are my apple trees. They are 5 variety combination trees from Costco. And there are 2 of them. And last season, they produced approximately 500 apples between the 2 trees, which was absolutely crazy. And I think there probably are 700 to 1,000 on here if I'm going to estimate between the 2 trees. There are so many apples, so many, and I really need to thin them out more. We can do some while you're here. This is how you thin an apple tree or a fruit tree in general. You go for the spindly thin ones first. Some of them will naturally fall off the tree, but some of them will not. And you want the apples to be thinned out so they actually produce a better crop. Too many on the tree will be too difficult for the tree to maintain healthy looking fruits, and the fruits will not be as good as you want them to be. So definitely thin the fruit trees if you have an abundant production of fruit. Lots of them here. I'm really looking for the spindly fruits first before I do a more thorough thinning of these guys. Lots. This is actually 5 varieties on this one tree. And we can check out my other tree over here, also 5 variety from Costco. And these trees are 9. This one is 10 years old, and this one is 9 years old. Quite a different shape. This one was mauled by an animal in its first year of growth, possibly my puppy that died. Greetings, Howie. It is garden tour time. I tried this earlier and my phone overheated, so we're redoing it. Yeah, so I have more thinning to do here. Lots and lots of apples on this tree. I really thought last year was a bumper crop. Now this is a tiny one I was going to remove, but it's so tightly attached, I'm actually not going to remove it. Lots and lots of thinning to do here. So many apples. It's pretty amazing what a small backyard can produce. Trying to just go for these really weak ones first. Howie, I'm doing an experiment and I don't know if it's going to work out, but this would be something you're super interested in with several fruit trees and let's just say some beans. I won't go any further with that because nothing has sprouted yet. If it works out, then the experiment was definitely inspired by the food forest. I will film it, assuming that something does sprout eventually. I mean, I think it will, but it hasn't been in the ground for too long, so we'll see what happens with my seeds. But this could turn into a very interesting food forest experiment that I'm conducting here. More thinning to do. Yeah, a lot of these tiny apples that I was planning to thin off when, not this one, but some of them are really tightly attached and I don't have the heart to pull them off the tree yet. We'll give them a little bit more time. But there's definitely an abundance here of apples all over the tree. Here, there, and everywhere. I truly think this tree was about pollinated, maybe 95% of the flowers got pollinated, which is crazy. There were hundreds, if not thousands, of flowers on it in the spring. Let's check out the blueberry bushes. I'll tell you some stories about my blueberry bushes. This particular blueberry bush has had 2 seasons that weren't good. It produced well for several years, maybe 5 or 6 years. And then, let me tell you, I followed the advice of a very popular gardening channel. In fact, I would say she's the most popular channel on YouTube. She gave some advice in a video about 4 or 5 years ago regarding the pruning of blueberry bushes. So I had never ever pruned my blueberry bushes and I took her advice and I regret it 100%. I won't necessarily name her channel because I'm not trying to shame anyone or anything like that. But I regret that advice completely because my bushes used to produce well and then they stopped. For about 2 years I got hardly any blueberries and they finally rebounded. So let me show you how the rebound is going since the pruning gone wrong, if you want to say that. Finally, I'm getting a decent amount of blueberries on these bushes again. It was pretty sad for those couple of years because they used to produce so well and then almost nothing for a few years. But the blueberries are back, so that is so exciting. And it's a lesson to be learned that not everything you see, even from the top YouTube channels, who give advice, whether it's gardening or other topics, not everything is accurate. Even if they seem very, very professional and very, very like they know what they're doing, it doesn't necessarily mean they do know what they're talking about. So lesson learned, don't necessarily trust the top YouTubers regardless of what the topic is. I've had no luck even growing blueberry bushes. Oh, that's too bad. They can be tricky. I know they like acidic soil, and that is part of the reason they usually do pretty well in my area. We have pretty acidic soil here. I know some places without acidic soil are more challenging to grow. Now, this is a very confused blueberry bush. It has a combination of things happening. We've got some blueberries, some flowers, and a few leaves. No joke, these are from the fall still. Now, you might think that's a little strange, but I can tell you a story about this blueberry bush as well. This one had quite a different story than the last one. What happened was, when this blueberry bush was in its very first growing season, it had a bit of a tragedy. I was out here with my weed whacker, and of course it was accidental, but I tend to be clumsy. I weed whacked that thing down to, it had one stem and it was about this high from the ground with like 2 leaves. And I didn't know if it would actually survive, but it did. And ever since then, it's been a very confused blueberry bush. I've showed it in a few, long form videos, how early spring, this blueberry is still losing the fall leaves. Like, there's not many now, but early in the spring, it's got all these reddish brown leaves with the neon green leaves because it's very, very confused. It doesn't know what season it is. But the good thing about that is, since that accident, it changed its growing time. So it flowers later, it gets blueberries later, and the harvest is later. So I'm not complaining about it at all. It was almost like an accident gone wrong. Grandma Sandy, welcome! I've had no luck even growing blueberry bushes. I will usually put blueberries out for a year. The second year they usually die. I have one tip myself. Now, I'm not a blueberry guru or anything. I've grown blueberries for 10 years with mixed success. Overall, fairly good, but there's been poor years. And the one thing I can tell everyone about blueberries, and I think gardeners underestimate this, is the amount of water they require. Blueberries are water hogs. If you want them to do really well, they need a huge amount of water, like way more than you would probably think. And to me, more than fertilizer, more than the pH of your soil, the water makes the biggest difference. Food Forest Permaculture. The last Saturday of July 28th is the Secret Fairy Garden Day, but could be the Sunday before the 21st of July. I may be back east at the time. I gave her hubby snapper and new spuds today. Oh, that's exciting. Grandma Sandy, I love it when you never know what's going to happen and you get a big surprise. That happens a lot in the garden, I find. In my garden, I've had so many surprises. Grandma Sandy, I was talking about my plum tree earlier. I don't know if you remember. I know some people have been here for a while, since the beginning of the live stream. I talked about this many times this year, how I think my plum tree is dying. And I will just give you guys a quick recap because I see there's several new people here in the chat or watching. I'll just give you a very, very short glimpse of what the plum tree is doing now because I just got my mind blown by Mother Nature. We'll go back down just for maybe 2 minutes and check out the plum tree one more time because I was beyond shocked when I turned the live stream on and started examining the plum tree. Holy smokes, it is blowing my mind, this tree. Now, I literally thought there were 2 plums in this tree, but it was still dying a slow death, and look what I found. I accidentally broke a branch during the live stream, and underneath, there are plums, like quite a few plums. There's probably at least 30, there might be more. And they're on different parts of the tree too. Probably gonna break more branches, but I could not believe this. Where did I see it? Oh, this is where I knew about these ones. but I did not know about all the other ones. So that was my big surprise tonight on the live stream. Could not believe that the plum tree is doing that. I was literally ready to cut that tree down, and then it produces all those plums. I cannot cut a tree down when it is trying so hard to live, even though it's full of disease, it's full of dying branches. If a tree or a being has such a will to live, let it live. Don't harm it. So that was my surprise from Mother Nature. Now, I don't know how many of you were around. I don't think too many of you were around where I did my plant with me the other day. Let's check out the vegetable garden. I planted a few things since we last did a live stream. My soaker hose is going right now. That's what you hear. For me, this was a really effective method when I started doing this a few years ago compared to overhead watering. Not a good idea, or hand watering. I still hand water sometimes, but this is much more effective, going right to the soil level and soaking it so well, and you're not wasting much with evaporation here. So we've got a few squashes, they're limping along, some cucumbers, another cucumber. Let's check out the tomatoes. So these ones I started in my house in the winter, and they're doing pretty well. And I have a very interesting thing to show you, aside from the fact that the potatoes are completely overcrowding my tomato. That's a whole other story. But let's talk about the relationship that cabbage and tomatoes have. Now, I never knew this was a thing. I've heard of companion planting, I've done companion planting, but I really didn't know the true love that tomatoes have for cabbage and cabbage has for tomatoes. I had no idea. They are pretty much soulmates. If you look at this cabbage, it is huge and it is growing next to this tomato. But I have an even better example of the love that cabbage and tomatoes have for each other. Let's dive a little deeper into the jungle here. This is a mass cluster of potatoes gone wild. If we dive in a little further, this is, holy smokes! This sunflower exploded in the last 2 days. It was like this big. Whoa, it was like this big. And it just, boom! It's like 2.5, 3 feet tall now. That is nutty. Anyways, back to the cabbage and sunflower situation. This tomato has gone completely wild for this cabbage. Like, this is bonkers. These two are so madly in love with each other. It is absolutely insane. Like, look at the size. Can I get closer here? This is my arm and the cabbage leaf. That is one leaf of cabbage. This is bonkers. And the tomato plant. It is absolutely gone crazy. I swear these plants have the most, they're pretty much soulmates. Like, you couldn't get a better plant companion combination here. This is absolutely wild. And then we have a variegated nasturtium who is also getting friendly with this tomato. But I do believe the cabbage is the true soulmate in this little planting situation. Kind of wild. Crocosmias are also going wild. They're very lush here. Potatoes, now that is a whole other topic. They are beyond bonkers. I probably should start pulling them out because they are so tall. You guys can tell. Whoa. They are literally, let's see where they are now. They are, the tallest ones are about at my hip bone. I'm 5'4", so I don't know what that makes them. At least 3 feet, 2.5, 3 feet. I don't know. My measurements are so off, but crazy. Garlic is very lush. We've had a lot of rain late into the spring, which is unusual, and the plants seem to love it. We've got a couple figs on the Chicago Hardy, only 2 though, I think, on this particular variety. One here. Anime Be Buggin'. Sup, a YouTuber joined the chat. Welcome, YouTuber. I think there's a couple YouTubers in the chat, or there were a few minutes ago, with different names, of course. And there are more figs in here somewhere. Oh, you can kind of see it behind the leaf there. There's another fig. And the peas are doing strange things, blooming. Normally they'd be finished production, and they're just starting to bloom now. Yeah, the garden is bursting with life. It's a very nice place to be. Sunflowers self-seeded themselves. The corn is growing, but it's so tiny compared to like the potatoes and the garlic and the tomatoes and cabbage. It looks minuscule, but I mean, it's doing okay. The onions, they're doing fine too, but they're not explosive like some of the other vegetables. My kale has gone wild. I am thinking of putting a few more bits out because I probably have too much, and then I can put some more summer crops in here. And the chive flowers are doing so well. I love chives. Speaking of which, let's do another let's eat some chives, because why not? So good. Very potent though. You never tried this? This is basically like eating an onion, like taking out an onion from your storage and cutting a raw onion and eating it. It's got to be full of vitamin C. Very strong though. I'm actually going to have a drink, I think. It's not bad, but I feel like if you have a virus, this will kill your virus. Like, it's pretty potent. So let's see what else I've been doing. I did some projects here. I took out dying things and put in living things. This is soil that I harvested from my compost bin. No fertilizers or anything. And I put this store-bought tomato seedling in here. Interesting variety called Silvery Fir. And all of these kales have popped up in like 3 days. 2 days? 2 days or 3 days since I put them in. Crazy. And I didn't put seeds in here. That's all from the compost bin. It is sure hot, Howie. My phone overheated. I think I said it like 3 times already, but I tried to live stream a few hours ago and it overheated from the heat outside. So don't live stream in 30-degree weather. Not a good idea. And there we have another tomato doing fine. And this little baby started a milk jug. I don't know. I mean, it's doing okay, but it's so tiny. Lots of kale seedlings around it. Then we have a little Candyland tomato. Super excited to try this variety. With a patio cherry tomato. Another milk jug seedling right here. And this is a bell pepper that I started in hydroponics. It's had quite the ringer. Put it outside. It was in the house in winter. It almost died and it's making a comeback. I almost pulled it out, but I didn't have the heart to because it's trying so hard to live. So I'm gonna let it see if it'll rebound. I don't know if it'll produce because it's got a long way to go, but it's so hard to pull out plants that are trying so hard to stay alive. Some little sunflowers, another tomato. I'm attempting to grow a squash in a pot. Now, I've never done that before. I always grow them in the ground, but I thought, why not give it a try? See what happens. It's looking healthy so far. And once again, this is all soil from my compost bin. I didn't buy anything. It's not from the vegetable garden. It is literally compost that is at various stages of decomposition that we're growing in. And coming this way, we have some beans in a pot that have sprouted. More sunflowers. Another tomato. And Howie, this is for you. When I did all my fig experiments in the wintertime, all my propagations. This is the only one that survived. It's still in a pot and it is outside now. So this fig is a survivor. And it is growing with this basil plant, which looks so sad. This was in hydroponics. I took it outside. It looked like it was dying, but once again, I think it is slowly rebounding. I might give it a little bit of a haircut and see if it'll grow some more, but for now, I don't have the heart to pull it out yet, so we're gonna leave it a little bit longer, see what happens. We've got lettuce growing in here. And now we're gonna take a look at some of my more intriguing plant experiments. I've been inspired to try growing food outside of the vegetable garden this season and see how it goes. So let's have a look. So this is my creeping thyme slope. It's been here for probably close to 10 years now. And I have a few plants I put in here, squashes. I don't know how they're gonna do, but so far they're alive. And this is a nectarine, a little dwarf, has never produced, probably won't in the time I'm living here, but it's doing well. And this squash, something tried to eat it, but it's still alive. Howie is your brother. Well, welcome, Fart Sack Jack. That's a unique username. Welcome to my backyard on Vancouver Island. And then we have lots of nasturtium flowers. And for anyone who's unfamiliar with these beautiful plant varieties, right here, these are nasturtiums, and the whole entire plant is edible. Let's do a little taste test. My mouth is going to be burning after this. But you can eat the leaves, the stems, and the flowers. I don't have flowers yet, but we can do some leaf munching. These are super healthy and delicious. Oh, so good. I always forget how, a bee just hit me, how good the nasturtium leaves are. I usually eat flowers, but the leaves are so delicious. My garden always has something popping up and I don't know where it came from. So true. I think a lot of gardens are like that. Oh, that was good. Lettuce is all I've harvested so far. I've harvested lettuce too, and some garlic. I haven't done a lot of harvesting yet this season. And more squashes here at various stages of survival, growth, and development. The Mother Nature has been cruel to these little squashes, I have to say. Nasturtiums are on fire with growth. And we have more experiments coming this way. I have a tomato growing amongst the ornamentals. I've never tried this before, so we'll see. This is a milk jug grown tomato seedling. See how it does. So far, so good. And if we come down this way, we've got some more squash growing with strawberries, more strawberries, gladioli, a sad little squash plant. We have autumn joy sedum, creeping phlox, some clover. Check out these beautiful roses. This rose I planted last year. It is called Showbiz. And I feel like it's such a Canadian combination. The red rose with the Shasta daisies. It's so pretty. We have 2 small raised gardens and a few pots. Mostly tomatoes, some peppers, onions, radishes, squash, and beans. Well, that sounds quite lovely. Sounds like you've got a good collection of plants for the garden, vegetables. And this is another blueberry bush here. This one is quite productive and is also having a better growing season than average. And this area is super hot and dry in the garden, like the driest part of the garden. So it's interesting that the blueberry is doing well because typically blueberries prefer really moist environments overall. But this particular one seems to have adapted to the dry climate. I had other ones here that actually died. And I think this variety was more resilient to the harsh conditions in this part of the garden. Lots of autumn joy sedum. My rock rose is almost finished blooming, just a few flowers left. Love the little purples. Yes, these little purples. Well, this one here, I think is actually either a wildflower or a weed, depending on your perspective. Oh, Grandma Sandy, if you're still here, I almost forgot to show you something. I'm doing this just for you. I've never done this before, ever. But let me go back to the vegetable garden. Check this out. I've been so inspired by all of your carrots that this is the first time I've ever let carrots attempt to go to seed. I've never done it before. And they're so big. And a little spoiler alert, I'm going to be doing a carrot flower taste test, but not today. The flowers need to actually go further into bloom before I do that. But I've done my research, and apparently carrot flowers are edible, and I've never tried them before. So that is something I'm trying this summer. I'm trying to eat carrot flowers for the first time, and I'm very excited about it. Now I have this that popped up in my garden last year, and I don't know if this is a weed. This is not a carrot, or if this is some weird wildflower. It's so unique. I haven't pulled it out, but I really don't know what it is actually. I definitely didn't plant this, but honestly, it looks like a cauliflower or a broccoli, kind of, but not really. It's just like a really unique plant, and that's the reason I haven't pulled it out, because I just think it's so different than everything else. Your roses look so pretty. Thank you. I planted 3 miniature roses this year, and 2 of them died. Oh, that's so sad. And there's another view of the 9-bark. So beautiful. And let's check out a few things over here. The pansies, they're doing okay considering it's been 30 degrees. They're gonna fade pretty soon. The poppy has started fading, but there's more poppy flowers to come. I do have some edible foods in here. There's some squash and more daisies, a foxglove. Those are not edible. This is another squash plant that is actually doing pretty well in the cottage garden. And a tomato at the back. That one is just planted yesterday or the day before, and it's doing pretty well. Little angel watching over the plants. The knockout roses are still living their best lives. And this is a beautiful flower. This is called Nicole, and it is just so stunning. I love the two-toned pink and white on this rose. So beautiful. I think I'm going to try a blueberry next year in a container where I can control the soil. And now I'm thinking maybe I need to make sure it has plenty more water. Yes, you do. I guess Howie went back to his cave, probably. Grandma Sandy too, the blueberries need to be in a lot of sun, or half shade and sun. I have good luck in full sun, but if you're in a really hot climate, I do wonder if a part shade might be better. I haven't tried that, but I'm wondering if that would work out better with moisture control and all of that. I'm not sure, but it is an interesting question to ask. If you have any local Facebook groups, I don't know how big Facebook is in the United States, but in Canada, Facebook is huge. Like Facebook groups for different common interests, whether that is gardening or whatever. Facebook is a massive resource, both for knowledge, for promoting things, all kinds of stuff. So if you have a local Facebook gardening group, that would be a great place to ask those questions about your climate in blueberries or whatever plant you're needing information about. I have learned so much from my local Facebook groups about gardening and other topics. They're great resources for local areas. I'm still here and I'm so happy to see the carrots. Yes, I haven't harvested them because I'm growing them for the flowers this time. And you will see a taste test. I'm not sure when, but coming this summer. Right now I have carrot seeds that are going 5 to 7 feet tall. Holy doodle. I have a video of them. I might have seen it. I'm not sure. I've seen some of your carrot videos. I think this week my carrot forest is doing great. You absolutely have a carrot forest. I've never seen anyone with a carrot forest like that. I mean, there's Howie, Food Forest Permaculture. He has a food forest, completely different style than yours, and I haven't seen giant carrots in his food forest. So that is super interesting. 2 different gardens, food forests, but completely different. I love how people can have such different interpretations and create different environments to grow food that are forests, but in such a different way. It is such a unique perspective on gardening and permaculture. And check out the flowers, Grandma Sandy. The poppies are just starting. This one just opened this afternoon. It is so vibrant. I love the color. Threw a lot of seeds out from the Dollar Tree, make seed packages, and I get flowers that I've never seen in my area. Yeah, I do that too from the dollar stores. It's so fun. Love these red poppies. So cheerful, little pops of color. I mean, the rest of the garden is more pastel, but these are so vibrant. Just love them. And speaking of love, let's check out my Love in a Mist. I have it in the front and the back garden. If you've never heard of this flower, it is literally called Love in a Mist. I didn't make up the name. That is actually the plant's true name. Nigella, Love in a Mist. It comes in a blue and a white. And last year I had almost all blue, and this year I have more white than any other color, which is kind of interesting. And it's actually the same in my front yard garden too. For whatever reason, white is the predominant color this year. I don't mind that. I think they're all pretty. And a bachelor's button. And we have a few little mini dianthus blooming, also known as carnations. These are mini versions, so vibrant. And some more nasturtiums. I planted a whole pile of nasturtiums on this slope, which is super infertile. And I cannot wait to see them grow and bloom. I think it'll be so pretty to have summer flowers here. And there's lots of different little plants on this slope. Blossom Corner, welcome to my backyard garden tour. So we've talked about my plum tree and the apple trees, but let's take a look at the cherry tree right in front of us. This is a five variety cherry tree. Was from Costco. It's about 10 years old, and it started out looking like a really good season for cherries, but a lot of them have started falling off and drying up for some reason. You can see those dark ones are all going to fall off soon. The cherry season isn't really, cherries don't ripen here until I'd say early July on average. I'm on Vancouver Island, the Pacific Northwest, in a zone 7 to 8. And yeah, that's more of our cherry season. There are lots of good ones here, but we're not at the, oh boy, I didn't know about this. They're starting to go red, but that means the birds have, well, no, that's a split. That could be from the rain, actually. We'll take that off. Well, that doesn't want to come off, but yeah, so they are starting to ripen a little bit. I did not know that. There's more here. Few up there. They're not ripe yet. They got a ways to go still. Kind of wonder if there's any in the top of the tree that you can't even really see because of the leaves. Yes, you should definitely look at Facebook and see if you can find a local garden group. You can learn so much about gardening there. Lots of cherries. And for all the people who weren't here when I started the stream, I'll give you some updates on my Desert King fig tree, since we didn't really look at that in this stream. More cherries here. Actually, you can see a lot more of the cherries from this section of the tree. Let's go check out the fig and the peach tree. The Desert King fig is straight ahead, and this is, I would say, its best growing season it's ever had. Look at the size of the figs, and there are so many on this tree. This tree is about 6 years old, I want to say now, and it is definitely living its best life here. The funny thing is, I could grow carrots for years. That is interesting. Maybe something in your soil changed or your climate changed a little bit and now you can grow them. I don't know. Lots of figs on the Desert King. Definitely a good variety for Vancouver Island and the Pacific Northwest. Very suited to this climate and super delicious, these fruits. And we'll take a look at the peach tree, coconut ice. My favorite variety of peaches I've ever tried. They taste like a tropical drink. This tree had peach leaf curl and is almost recovered. I treated it organically, gave it lots of fertilizer in the form of seaweed extract, sea soil, rock phosphate, kelp meal, and then I slowly removed the diseased leaves, did a tiny bit of pruning, and it's looking much healthier. There are peaches, but some of the branches are still naked. I can no longer plant carrots. The yard produces its own carrots. That is good. That's how it should be. A few peaches here. I definitely don't have as many as I had flowers. A lot of them came off with disease, but I'll probably still get 30, 40 peaches, so that's nice. Good news there. And my other Desert King fig tree is growing in almost a part shade location. There are less figs here, but there still are some figs on this tree. There's a few here, some more over here, and some at the top. It's a lot of foliage and maybe only about 20 figs, but that's plenty. And I think I'm going to end it here. Thank you all for joining in on my little live garden tour on Garden Tour Saturday. I hope you guys all have a lovely day, evening, or night wherever you are.